Hello there. My name is Sydney Winston. Let's see, I'm a humanist, an atheist, a Zionist, a Jew, an introvert. Uh, I have anxiety and depression under control, treated. And to circle all the way back, I am a very strong atheist, which confuses me when I run across somebody who is also a very strong atheist. Well, talking about Nokasuchi, he's never been a strong atheist. He says he started out as a agnostic atheist. Now, I don't know what an agnostic atheist is. He claims to be one, so I will I have to say that he never was an atheist. He started out as a agnostic theist, and then he became an agnostic atheist, and now he seems to be a gnostic theist. So. What I want to do today, and this is not an attack. The idea here is to take the case of Nokasuchi, and if you've watched any of the two videos that I have posted in today and yesterday, the last 2 days, you'll see his previous position. Today, I want to talk about his current position. But in order to talk about his current position, I have to show you. Now, before we get into his current position, this was a previous position of his, right here.
Anybody living in any time, any generation can predict that there's going to be a great war in the future. I can sit here right now and predict that there's going to be a great war in the future.
You completely denounce the possible fact for you that God is real, or you are which
I agree with a guy named Sidney Winston that comes on the channel sometimes, and he says that God is an impossibility. That is my belief. I think that God is an impossibility. I don't think that there's any higher purpose, higher meaning. I don't think that there's any forces outside of what's natural. I don't believe in the supernatural. I completely reject the supernatural. And I consider myself a secular humanist. I think all human beings we're essentially the same. We have the same motivations, the same wants. I think that we're all inherently good. We're all inherently bad. And I try not to be judgmental. That becomes hard on my channel because I do a lot of combating with what I consider to be really bad people. I have come over 20 years to the conclusion that I don't believe in the supernatural. I think naturalism can explain 99.9% of the things that we observe. The small, minute fraction of things that we don't yet understand, I think naturalism eventually will.
So that was his position. When I hung out with him a little bit, he said he agrees with my position, and my position, as we all know, is that God is impossible. God is a myth. It's supernatural. All of that is nonsense. It's just man-made gobbledygook. Now, it's too bad that we have a situation where Nokasuchi disagrees with me now. I find that strange. But we'll carry right on and get into the next video, which we hopefully will be able to have questions. Just as a reminder, super chats are open for any questions. Why wait? Let's just carry on. All right.
All right.
Here we go.
I have to hold my microphone, so hopefully it doesn't get too high, too low. But my microphone stand has broken on me, and my backup one
Sorry about
is
that.
a backup one for a Getty microphone. It wouldn't work for this, so I've got to hold this as I do this. What is up, you beautiful bastards? Welcome back to the show. I'm your boy Nok, formerly the Raging Atheist. Yes, you heard that right. I'm no longer an atheist. It's going to bother me not being able to see my volume, so I want to make sure I'm at least coming through a little bit. I'm no longer an atheist. After months of flirting with it, after bowing to the criticisms I received in regards to declaring myself an agnostic, I had my come to Jesus moment, if you will. I'm going to try to explain, but I'm probably going to do so badly. I'll start by saying that when I started writing this, trying to get all of this straight in my head, writing the script for this stream, I never thought it would take me 23 pages to tell all of it. And I don't think that I actually did. I think I am going to be leaving things out because I'm still piecing it all together. And now that I've actually finished it, I decided to not even read it back. I'm going to read the script as it was written without any attempt to fix typos or grammar like I usually would for these things. So if I come to parts with these typos, bear with me. I want to get this out. I want to get it out before my daughter gets out of school. Probably going to take a walk with her tonight when she gets home. Need my right hand. So before I get into it, I want to give a disclaimer. This will probably be filled with tons of fallacies. Fallacies galore for all of the philosophy PhDs out there. I personally do not have a PhD for philosophy, neither do I care for it much, even after devoting the last 2 years of my life to at least to have an understanding of it. So when I get my experience over the last 3 weeks or so, it is going to be with fallacies galore, most likely. I'm going to simply try to relay to you best what happened to me, and if you call that fallacy, I won't say you're wrong, but I might call you deaf. I might say you're missing the point. And again, first, let me say welcome to anybody that's joining that's going to be watching the playback. I noticed a couple friends. What's up, Pat? Gurr? Maynard Sear? What's going on, everybody? I also have to say that just 3 weeks ago, if anyone came at me with the story I'm going to come at you with, I would have dismissed it immediately. I do not have proof of a God for you, but the truth of God was revealed to me, or at least the beginning of that truth. I'm going to be the first to tell you I don't even understand yet what I just went through. I'm going to try to put it into words as best as I can, and I'm not going to expect you to take it as anything other than knocked and lost his goddamn mind. That's okay. I cannot knock you for it, pun intended. So, on May 1st, I woke up to the beginning of my absolute rock bottom. I woke up with no internet. After a year and a half of not working, a year and a half of spending the savings I had, most of which came from pandemic money, I'm not even going to lie, or e-begging what few followers I have for help, doing the same with friends and family, my absolute rock bottom had come, because the very next day I was served with eviction papers, 2 months before I was really expecting to get them. Everything came crashing down on me in a 48-hour time span. Everything I had known was going to happen was happening, And my depression, it reared its very, very ugly head. Wish I didn't have screen 1 on the right. I began to have visions of killing myself, fantasizing how suicide would be the solution to all of my problems. These became worse when I realized the one place I had to fall back on, the one place I thought I could go if the worst were to happen, made it plainly clear that I wasn't wanted. And when that was made clear to me, I had no out anymore. I was going to be homeless. Family began talking to me about giving custody of my daughter over to her mom. If I did that, then I could go live in a shelter. I could be homeless, essentially. And they had a point. Because I knew at that moment I had failed her in every way a father can fail his child. It was that realization that brought on what I can only describe to be divine intervention, divine revelation. But let's back up a bit. My doubt.
Hold on a sec. Divine intervention and divine revelation. All right. I got a question here. Nokasuchi and me, when we last spoke, he agreed with me that all the supernatural is nonsense. All this Jesus mythicism is true. There is no such thing as God, la-di-la-da, all this kind of stuff. Yes. But now, he reaches rock bottom and claims to have been touched by the divine. Or have a divine, whatever he said, revelation or whatever. Because he was at rock bottom, about to lose his place, blah, 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 blah. Lose his daughter, rock bottom. Now, doesn't this sound familiar? How many times have you heard people say, I was at rock bottom, I had nowhere to go, and then Jesus touched me? How many times have you heard that? Well, this seems to be just another one of those stories. Carry on now.
No, my denial of the divine had been under internal attack for months. An internal struggle.
Denial of the divine. Yeah, I hope he comes back to the side of reason too. This is really this is the message that I'm trying to send to Nok. You're going through ups and downs. What I think you're doing right now is you're being, and we'll get back when we watch the Matt Powell interview. We'll see that he's being love bombed by the Christians. He's rock bottom. He has this. I think that his family's very Christian. His family has distanced themselves from him because of his atheism. I think he's kind of compromising here. I think he's conforming, if I were to use a word that's probably more appropriate. So he's accepting the God of his family, because he says he's touched by the divine. Why is it Jesus? Has it happened to be because he lives in Michigan? Or why wouldn't it be some unknown God? Or why wouldn't it be another God? So, there's a little bit of sus here, a little bit of suspicion about exactly what's going on in this man's head. Let's carry on.
Make sure I got this going right. An internal struggle I was having with myself that I eventually talked about on this channel. I no longer liked myself very much. I didn't like the person I had become, the extremist I had become. So I started to take a look at Buddhism. And a lot of that religion really pulled at me in a way no religion had for over 2 decades. The idea of divine without deity really attracted me again, stirred something within me that I'd almost declared myself a Buddhist very publicly. I am glad I didn't, at this moment, writing out this script for the death of the Raging Atheist. I am as much a Buddhist as I am a Christian. And I really hope I don't forget to come back to that point later on.
Okay, well, I want to address that point right now. He said that he's as much a Buddhist as he is a Christian. I have no idea about Buddhism, zero, but I know about Christianity. If you're a Christian, you believe in the creation story, that God was present prior to existence. But if you're a Christian, you also believe that there's a man God. He's Jesus Christ, and all the mythical stories that go along with this mythical man God. Now, what I'm hearing here from Nok is that you, Nok, if you're watching, have pretty much fallen prey, thanks to Zeno Sith Lord there, to their having taken advantage of your vulnerability. You're very vulnerable when you're down at the very lowest you can go. And if accepting Jesus and then the help and then the welcoming back to the fold of your family is the solution for you getting out of your situation, being, like the lowest you've ever been, contemplating self-harm is pretty radical. Did you really contemplate self-harm? It doesn't make sense. You're an atheist. At least you claim to be. I'm having second thoughts about you ever having been an atheist, Nok. But the idea is for you to come back to critical thinking, come back to reason and common sense. That's what I would like to see come out of this today. I'd like to, well, I think we'll just carry on watching this, listening to this.
Which I might have, I'm not sure. The point is, I had been struggling with my hard atheism for a while before this, beginning to see it as the root for my transgression into the person I had grown to despise. When you despise yourself, happiness is an impossibility.
Okay, he just said he had something to do with being a hard atheist. Well, he has now admitted to being an agnostic atheist and a hard atheist. Okay, I'll believe that you're an agnostic atheist. I'll agree that you're an agnostic theist. But I won't buy that you are a hard atheist. If you can explain to me how you define your hard atheism and how you get around it by crowbarring this divine that you're talking about. You've effectively presupposed the divine, whatever that is, and then you're claiming that this presupposed divine has touched you. Now, I went to the dictionary and I looked up divine, and the divine in the dictionary refers to a person, a religious person. So when you say the divine touched you, I'm assuming that somebody like Matt, was it Matt Powell? Matt Powell got to you, other Christians got to you. That's what I'm saying.
You pretend happiness, as I did so often on this channel for my audience. And it should come as no surprise that when you are walking through life pretending to be happy, that depression will come to rule you. And it was ruling me. For the first time, I didn't want to live. The only thing that kept me here was my love for my daughter, my need to see her grow. We have a saying, me and her, 2 Ronnies against the world. 3 Ronnies when my dad is up here visiting. So I am now existing in my absolute bottom. We're talking May 4th, maybe May 5th now of this month. Since I have gone from streaming again. I'm facing having to give custody of my only child to her mother, who has absolutely changed her life and would actually be a better option than I was myself at that moment. I am facing homelessness, a life of misery where I have no family left, only the pain in my legs that had become the focal point of my entire existence. And as I said, it was at this point I could only have what I can describe to be divine revelation. This is the part where you get to say I lost my damn mind, but I beg you to just listen. I had just talked to my dad, who had just reiterated to me a point my brother had made about how it might be best if I start considering handing the care of my daughter over to her mother. I was crying pretty hard, bawling really. Crying like I hadn't cried in years, and I smoked a bowl to calm myself down as I always do, and I was feeling it. You'll learn when your state finally legalizes weed, if it hasn't, that when it is legal, it is cheap and it is very, very good, very potent. And I was calming down. I was getting a handle on my emotions, realizing that yes, indeed, right now, her mother is her best option. Yes, I have become a burden on the well-being of my own child. Yes, I was going to give up custody. The only way I can describe it is I was overcome by an alien presence. I'm going to do a story. I'm going to go to a story of Jesus in the Bible now, briefly. The story I have mocked as the Raging Atheist relentlessly. The story of Jesus being tempted by the devil in the desert and how he was whisked away in a moment of time to the temple of Jerusalem and then again to a mountain in the desert. Now, I'm not saying that I was being attacked by the devil, but indeed being set free of it. Sitting on my couch, determined to do the hardest thing I could ever do, I was overcome by this alien sensation. And like Jesus in that story, it felt like I was whisked away to another place entirely, even though I knew I was still sitting right there on my couch. And when I went, where I went was to my past. I saw myself in my 20s as I was ascending in the Grand Rapids poetry scene, making a name for myself, and so very full of myself. But I wasn't in Grand Rapids, where I lived then. I was visiting home in Battle Creek here. I had hair, and it was funky. I had pretty much put this phase of my life down deep inside myself, in a place where I couldn't look at it because it had just become too tragic for me to know how close I was to what I was supposed to be. So my hair is longish, and it's twisted up into these like mini dreads. I did it using pomade, a thick grease that would take days to wash out, but it allowed for temporary white boy dreads, as I called them back then. I was wearing very baggy jeans and sagged halfway down my ass, a Grateful Dead t-shirt. I saw myself perfectly as I was back then, and in the revelation, I knew myself perfectly as I was back then. I saw it through my current eyes, my 45-year-old eyes. I was having a conversation with my cousins. I think I was a bit of an enigma to my family back then. I was living a life no one had lived. I was writing poetry books, good poetry books. I still have a copy of my manuscript after the Jackals took her, and I still think that it's amazing. Maybe one of the most amazing things no one has ever read. This, let's see if you guys can see it. This is the final draft that I typed of it. It's the shortest draft there was. This is chapbook size. And I still think it's amazing. The original draft was over 200 pages long, over 100 poems. But I, over a course of 10 years, have edited it down to this chapbook size. And I flipped through it, and I'm reading my poems of when I still had a God in my life. Not the Christian God anymore, but a God in my life. And I read those poems, and that vision was a moment from that time in my life. I had my own weekly live poetry show with my best friend and roommate. I was winning slams, going up against some of the best spoken word competition that the United States had to offer. I had just been approached by a very popular DJ in Grand Rapids that wanted to put my poetry to his music. I was on the way up. And in this visit with my family, talking with my cousins, I was telling them how God was guiding me and had a plan for me. I wasn't a Christian anymore, but I was still deeply spiritual, trying to follow the Lakota tradition, find the red road. And I was listening to myself talk, watching myself talk. Wrong screen. Get over there. I began to see this dark thing inside of me, like a shadow in my spine. I could see it through my clothing and my flesh and bone. I could see it resting there, growing stronger there, and the revelation came. It wasn't a voice, it was more like a feeling, but it was so very alien. The whole thing seems like some kind of fugue state I was in, surreal. But the revelation was that I had indeed been special, in some way or another. That I was on a path that might have changed the very fabrics of reality. At least changed the way that people thought. At least some people. Maybe planted the seeds of the people that would change society forever. I don't fucking know. Maybe I was on a path to nothing, which is what my path turned out to be. And that made me a target to be stopped. And I knew that darkness for what it was, for the demon it was. And I know I'm freaking you guys out. But my name for it came immediately. I call it the fuck it demon. Now I'm not trying to say that atheism is a demon, and that this darkness isn't a demon in any sense of the word that any religion has ever described. I don't know if I get into it in this. I do get into it on William Freeman's channel. I stopped writing this for a moment today. William Freeman was streaming, and I went in and I talked about this for a while. And I'll probably be doing it on other streams as well, occasionally when I have time. Not going to have much time. The demon isn't a demon, you know. It's the word for it. It's the darkness that I saw inside of myself, and I call it the fuck it demon. And as soon as I had my name for it, I came back to my couch. Again, the way I want to describe it is I was whisked back to my couch. I had been aware that I was still on my feet, or I'd been aware that I was still on my couch the whole time, but I had also been completely in that moment of my past, 20 years ago now at least, and such an inconsequential memory of mine for me to be whisked away to. But whisked is the word I have for it. And I wrote down immediately that I had just had my first real out-of-body experience. I wrote it down because I didn't want to lose it. And I had the sense that I would lose it if I didn't write it down. Like a dream you are having, and when you're awake it is still there, but then it starts to fade away. Like that, and I didn't want it to happen. I had had a couple of out-of-body experiences before, back in my 20s, but they were drug and ceremony-induced experiences, both times with peyote. As an atheist, I dismissed those experiences as being drug-induced. I had done it several times on this channel. Some of you will say this current one was as well, because I had smoked weed. But smoking weed is my normal. It is nothing that will induce anything in me. I guarantee you that. Take a drink of my coffee. I don't like holding my microphone. I wish I had my microphone stand still. Should have tried to like MacGyvered it or something. Now, I'm not talking from a Christian sense of demonology at all, or any human sense of demonology. My revelation did not bring me to any human form of God, because I do not think humans have the capacity to describe it. I surely do not, at this moment at least, want to be distracted by the human part of it at all. I do think humans have been aware of this tainting of the human spirit for a very long time and have tried to convey it in many different ways. Maybe I'll get to that later. I don't think I do. But my point now is that I focused on that darkness all day. And other moments in my past where I just said, fuck it. And there are very many of them. So many of them it is shaming. Where I just said, fuck it. Fuck it.
It almost seems like he's been down to the bottom many, many times, and he has said, fuck it. Well, Nok, and I'm talking to you, as well as anybody else who's willing to listen. I don't think me and you are any different in terms of our shitty, crappy childhoods, etc. But I've never been to the bottom. I mean, I've been to the bottom, but I've never been to the bottom and said, fuck it. Because wherever you are, if it's at the bottom, you have only one option. And that option is to dig yourself out of the bottom. Climb out. Climb up from the bottom. When you're at the very, very bottom, there's nowhere else to go but up. That is a kind of a common sense way of thinking about it. It might be a rational way of thinking about it. And the way to deal with it is to look at the situation that you're in and take steps towards climbing out of the situation you're in. By you coming online and telling all of us that you were down at that point and you prayed and you were touched by the divine at the moment and blah, 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 that to me is a trope that has been repeated by almost every single Christian in the whole world. They were at the very bottom, they had nowhere else to go. The future was looking bleak. And then Jesus came to help me out. This is age. I don't believe you, Nok. I don't believe you for 1 second that any of these things happened to you. You might have perceived them, you might have imagined them, and, maybe you believe them to be true. I really don't think you believe your own story. Because if you say you're a hard atheist, and you've said so in this particular clip, then I'd like to have a talk with you about that at some point. What do we both understand hard atheism to be? And how is it possible to argue against it when it is so carved in stone, as it were? So yeah, carry on, Mark. But this is not. This is not very convincing to me, anyway.
The next day, I talked to my dad about it, and his relief was alarming. I had to tell him that I am not sure if I could ever be a Christian, because I can see that he is thinking that. And how could he not think that? He has always been a Christian, and it was the only concept of the notion he had ever brought us up on. But even as I was telling my dad this, and I didn't go into any detail, only that I don't think I am an atheist anymore, and I don't think I'm going to do the Raging Atheist anymore. But as I was telling him this, another thing happened to me, and this was a voice. And it wasn't the normal voice in my head, the voice I always hear when I think, though sometimes that voice sounds different, especially when I read. It wasn't that voice. It was a voice, a whisper, a notion that again seemed very alien. It said, find the gods of your father, of your fathers, plural.
Okay, this is starting to get ridiculous. You got a voice in your head which said, find the gods of your fathers. So you're going from a hard atheist, gods are impossible, to accepting the presupposition that your fathers had gods. And divine revelation has spoken to you and told you to go and find the gods of your fathers. You know, I don't want to say anything denigrating, but this sounds to me like a work. It's like a story. It's a nice story, and it's well written, but it's just a story. And to me, if this is to you not beyond a story, it's actually something that you're trying to convey as real, as actual, as real world, I don't buy it.
Find the gods, plural, of your fathers, plural. And of course, I didn't tell my dad this. We ended our conversation. I went for a walk, something I do a lot now, to think about it. As I was walking, and it was a bright, shiny day, I knew I'd been wrong for so very, very long. Like that, as I was walking, that sense came, like I had just been wrong. I've been wrong for, 10 years at least, 15, 20 years, just wrong about everything. I had come to a point a long time ago that I can no longer believe in the fictions inside of Christianity. It led me to look at other religions, which I also eventually dismissed as well. And I had one of my fuck it moments, really, where I dismissed the very notion of divinity along with it. But now I am having something happen to me, and either I am crazy or I am not. And this is that thing that has been misrepresented in humanity since humanity was a thing. That link humans seem to have with something bigger than themselves, than this world. Is this the divine speaking to me? And on that walk, I stopped denying it. And I had my Oprah Winfrey moment on that walk. It had been so cold in Michigan, but May hit and true spring had come with it. It was a nice day. I live out in the country, kind of. The sun was hitting the trees in just the right way. The air was crisp and sweet, with a slight chill that felt good because it had been so damn cold. And it was my voice in my head, that usual mental voice, but it was Oprah's voice as well, you know what I'm saying? And that voice said, who am I to deny this divine creation? I know. I have railed on the Oprah Winfrey thing so many times. So many times. I think it's been like a theme of my channel that every once in a while I'll just bring up the Oprah Winfrey thing and laugh and scorn. But a lot of what I have said to you now today, I would have easily dismissed 3 weeks ago myself, because it had never happened to me before. It is happening to me now.
Come on. You sound like a street preacher. Knock. You seriously do. 3 weeks ago, you wouldn't have believed. I'm sorry. You are an intelligent man. You're beyond this. You're above this. This is. I'm sorry, but it's embarrassing to listen to.
I am looking at the trees, having these Oprah thoughts, but at the same time, I am having other thoughts as well. Thoughts like I am the goddamned raging atheist. I might not be the biggest atheist on YouTube, but I am one of the realest. I give you the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, and I am such a fucking hypocrite right now. I was having those thoughts too. And yes, I am, right now at this moment, talking to you guys, being the hypocrite, doing the things that I've mocked so openly. I had no reason to ever believe it was real or could be real. So now that I am not denying it, I spent the rest of that day trying to decipher what it means. I really don't want to go into that right now because I'm still trying to decipher what it means, but the most important thing out of this particular experience is that I now had a different sense of things. I'm probably putting it wrong, but I knew I could no longer keep telling myself what I can't do. I can't work because my feet hurt. I can't take walks or interact with human beings in real life because my legs hurt. Everything was I can't, leading to those dark thoughts of, well, I guess now I can't live anymore. Now it was time to tell myself I can. I can save my apartment. I can keep my daughter. I can quit smoking. So I did. I quit smoking. The next day I went and I got a job. It was an old job, one I had a long time ago, a good solid job that pays considerably more now than it did when I had worked there before. A job where I am going to be on my feet for a lot of hours wearing steel-toed boots. I am going to have 2 days off a month, and I'm going to have to do it. It is my only chance now. But I didn't get the job immediately. I had to wait for it. Because I had worked there before and quit, I had to make my case on why I should be able to come back. When I got home from it, after I had made my case, and now I'm waiting to hear if I had the job or not, I had my atheist in a foxhole moment. Another concept I said didn't exist, though I know it does happen. I've always kind of railed against it, like the Oprah thing. But I was in my foxhole. I had these weird experiences happening to me in my time of rock bottom, and I desperately wanted to get this job. I know the job, had excelled at it before. I'm going to make my legs do what they need to do so I can excel at it now. I prayed to God for the first time in 20 years at least. I did a thing that I had dismissed as complete nonsense. It felt alien, saying it aloud as I did it. But I said it aloud. God, if you are there, let me get this job. Show me you're real. I immediately felt ridiculous, but not because I had just prayed. I should have felt ridiculous for that, but I didn't. I felt ridiculous because I had just prayed to get the job. It didn't feel right to me that was what I prayed for in that moment. So I prayed aloud again. God, if you are there, show me you are real. And I said it a couple times. God, if you are there, show me you are real.
Right. This is a problem. God, if you are there, show me that you are real. Now, every atheist I know, including me, would say, God, if you are real, show me that you are there by performing some kind of a miracle, right? Now, a miracle is an action that cannot be explained through physical means. It's beyond the physical. No one's ever seen a miracle. There have been no proven miracles. It seems to be more of a con job than anything else. But this man, Enoch, is saying, God, show me a miracle. And he lands a job. That is not, there's nothing miraculous about that. There's a higher probability that it's pure coincidence that you prayed and got a job than that the divine actually touched your employer and said, hire this guy, he's just found me. I mean, come on, Nock. You're an intelligent guy, but seriously, you're coming across as somebody, a new Christian who's giving a testimony. And this is what you're doing. Unconvincing to me, and I'll bet you it's unconvincing to every atheist that watches this. Comments will confirm that. Please.
And I admit, I have a hard time saying God still. Right now, in this moment, I have a hard time saying God. Because God is a human concept of it in capital letters. A human concept of the divine. But I prayed the prayer, and it felt right. I reached out to DHS to see if they could help me with the apartment. And they directed me to an organization called Neighborhood Inc. I called them. They told me they had nothing available, but took my information in case something comes up. Detailed information about my situation, my daughter, everything. The next day, I am up early like I always am now. That day I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, something that is happening kind of more and more. I think it is insomnia, because for the last 6 months or so, once again, I've been waking up earlier and earlier. Sometimes now it's not 5 a.m., it's 4:30 a.m. You know, my alarm during school week goes off at 6 a.m., but I wake up usually at 5. This day, I remember being one of those days where I woke up at 4:30, which has been happening more. Around 6 in the morning, I'm drinking coffee, and I look out my sliding glass doors, and there's this guy out there that I had never seen before. Younger than me, probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. Dressed pretty nice, I guess. Definitely wasn't a bum or anything. Brown hair and a mustache, which you see up here. I can never do the mustache thing. It is way too 80s for me, and hair on my lip eventually just drives me insane. And it's like a wow moment to think, you know, the 80s were like 40 years ago now. That's like, what the fuck? But this guy is out there, and we lock eyes, and I am looking out the sliding glass door. It's early morning. The sun is coming up, and I have my hanging blinds pulled back, so half the sliding door is completely open window. We lock eyes, and I got this really strange vibe. Again, it was weird. In the moment, it did not seem normal. It was almost like we met in that eye contact, me and this person. I looked away. I closed the blinds. A couple moments later, someone tried to come in the front door, but I keep it locked. I knew it was him, and I immediately went over to my door, unlocked, and opened it, and it was him. My neighbor said he had tried to get into her apartment as well, and he was leaned over the railing of the staircase, had all of his body weight on the stair railing. The stairs in my apartment are half flights, so you go up a half flight to a landing, and then up another half flight to the apartments above me. He was still on the ground right outside my door, but all of his weight were on the stair railing as he was trying to go up, and we lock eyes again, and I could smell the booze just radiating off of him, could see it in his eyes, and he said, like, sorry, bro, and I responded, you know, like, no problem, man, something like that, and I saw him lift his leg, and like it was heavy, like he was really, really drunk. And I kept smelling that smell of booze, and it was making me like sick to my stomach. And I thought, like, how many times had I given my daughter a kiss with that smell emanating from me? And I had that thought in that moment. And I closed my door, and I locked it again. And I turned down my TV because if this dude ended up in, like, someone's crib, I wanted to be able to hear it and call the cops if I needed to. But I didn't hear anything for about a half hour. I heard voices outside my door, so I look out the peephole, and I see a cop running by. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I see one of my neighbors come out of the apartment across from me, and he stands there for a minute watching whatever's going on. So I open up my door, and I go out as well. There are 2 cops there, and they are trying to revive this guy. He had made it up the half flight of stairs, but was laid out on that landing, unconscious. I was sitting there watching as they were slapping him, and the guy would take a breath, and the cop was telling him, that's it, take a breath. And he would breathe and then stop breathing again. And I couldn't watch no more. You know, it was freaking me out, and I didn't want my daughter to come out, so I went back inside. But I kept looking out the peephole, and she saw me, so I had to tell her what was going on anyway. And the EMTs, they show up, and they put a tube down his mouth and try to get air to him. And another EMT brought a gurney. They got him onto it and rushed him to the ambulance. I don't know if he lived or died. Watching the news to look for it, but I never saw anything on the news. And I have been too poor to even buy a newspaper. So now that I have the internet back, I can try to look for it. So speaking of, might as well do it now while I am thinking and typing about it. Sometimes when I write these scripts,
Yeah, come to think of it, how much are newspapers these days? Are they not affordable anymore? They used to be like a nickel or something? $1? What are they? Are they like $50 a newspaper? You can't afford them anymore, or $20 a newspaper? Like how much? I haven't bought a newspaper in decades. Ever since computers came out, there weren't the newspapers. Other than those that are kind of used to be. They still are, but I used to sometimes read those that would be delivered to the apartment lobby, and some newspapers would be dumped down there, and you could pick one up or not. But I don't pick one up anymore. $2 for a newspaper. I see what you're saying, Nok. Who can afford $2? Who can afford to spend $2 on a newspaper, especially after you've bought that cup of coffee, right?
I do that. Like, I'll think something and I'll type it out, but then I'll go back and I'll edit it and I'll edit all that shit out. I didn't do that this time. But so that I might as well just go. I did go look, and I wrote it, not finding anything about it online, but that was a quick search, and I'm not even sure how to word it. I went through the obits and didn't find anything, but there were several people with little to no information from that time period that could have possibly been the dude. So even now, with information available to me, I don't even know if the guy lived or died. And I was left as they rushed him away that day. I was left with this feeling that could have been me. You know, I don't know if he drank himself to death. It's possible. I suspect he probably took something, and with the drinking, he OD'd. Could have been heroin, because there's a lot of that around here. But I knew that would have been me if I hadn't stopped drinking. And how easy would it be with me having those dark thoughts of ending my life like I had been? How easy would it be to drink myself completely drunk and swallow all of my medications? It could have been myself laid out on that very platform. But it would have been my daughter that would have found me. I had prayed to God to show me it was real, and I know that it will never be enough for most of you. I don't blame you. I know that it would have never been enough for me 3 weeks ago, but it was enough for me that day. Let me get this over here real quick, so I'm making sure. Why is it not working now? All right, 1 second. There we go. All right. Let me blow that up for you. I got all that other shit. But right here is a photo of what the EMTs left right outside my door. Just medical shit. This right here is the thing they had put down his mouth. They just left all of this stuff there. You know, when they had rushed him to the hospital. They also left these really neat pair of medical scissors, like really high-end medical scissors. They left those there as well. So this is my memory. This is to keep it fresh for me. That could have been me. That could have been me. So easily. That day. And later that day, I got the job. And it is starting out in an actual living wage, the first time in my life. Plenty of overtime. After 60 days, the best insurance you can get, at least for a working man. All I got to do is overcome what my legs and my mind tell me. I have to work it.
Correct, Doc. You have to work it. But where does God come into this? The work in it is you doing the work. No one's helping you. You're doing it for yourself. I think that you should be honest enough to say that it's you. You say you hit rock bottom and you manage to bounce out of it. It's because of the effort that you put in. To say that it's a divine revelation and all this kind of nonsense, that sort of devalues you. And you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't devalue yourself or put some kind of put the praise on an invisible, non-existent entity for the work that you put in to pull yourself out of the bottom where you had landed. Perhaps you'll, after this euphoria dissipates, you'll probably come back to reasonable thinking and hopefully regain your senses. But I honestly would like to have a frank discussion with you, because I don't think you were ever an atheist. And I pretty much want to prove myself correct, of course. But but by doing that, or by having the conversation with you, I think it'll benefit others, and I think it'll make a really good point when it comes to hitting rock bottom, pulling yourself out of it by your own bravery, by your own bootstraps, rather than saying, well, something that doesn't exist touched me and gave me the fortune, or nonsense, absolute nonsense. And I thought that you, more than anybody else, because I thought you were an atheist, I really did. Actually, no, I didn't. When you said you were an agnostic atheist, which if you watch any of the, I think it was on one of the videos that I posted in the last 2 days. I posted one video yesterday, one today. And on one of those, you said you're an agnostic atheist. Today, in this one, you said you were a strong atheist. I don't believe you.
Until I lose my leg and then get my fake leg and work it some more. And I had to get steel-toed boots. Which means, make sure we're still right over here. Let's keep that on. Where am I at? Which means I have to ask my dad for help. when he had told me several times now that he wasn't going to help me anymore. But I did, and my dad came through for me. He did what I couldn't do, and he reached out to my family up here, his side of it anyway, and my uncle happened to have a pair of steel-toed boots that were too big for him, but just sitting in his closet. And they happened to be my exact size, 12 wide. The next day, my uncle brings them over. I got my job. I got my boots. I might not keep my place, but life was starting again. And then that darkness attacked me again. And all of a sudden, I really, really needed a cigarette. It had always been bad since I quit for like 4 or 5 days now. Bad. You know, that need for a cigarette never left, but this time it was bad. I was overcome with it. And I desperately started to call my cards. I have $3 on my PayPal card, nothing on my bank card, nothing on my child support card. I said, fuck it. Fuck it. That fuck it demon attacking me again. I called my tax card, my Emerald card. $6.90 were left for my taxes. That, with what was on my PayPal card, I can get me a pack of Newport Red 100s, my brand.
All thanks to the Lord above looking after you, Nokasuchi. That's how you got your cigarettes. Because God put enough money on your cards in your bank. Just enough to buy a packet of cigarettes. How can you possibly deny the existence of God when that happens? I ask you, you guys out there watching, how can you do that? How can you possibly deny the undeniable existence of the most powerful supreme being in the world? Because I was at rock bottom. I was on the verge of losing my apartment, of losing my custody of my daughter, and of being homeless. And with my own inner strength and perhaps obstinacy, you applied to the right places. Everything fell into place, and everything fell into place at the right time for you, and therefore God. I have a story when everything fell into place for me once. I found a job. I didn't have a job, and it's kind of almost like knock. I didn't have a job, but I wasn't down. You know, I've never been let down. That I've always been a survivor, let's say, and I think that's you are too. And knock, you're a survivor. And that's the reason that you've pulled yourself out of your hole. You're a survivor. And I was a survivor too. But I was lucky to find a job that every skill I had at the time was necessary for me to perform very well at the job. Nobody else had the same skill set at the same time. But I never gave the credit to some god or anything. I gave the credit to the experience that I've had in life, the courses that I took in college, the work experience that I've had, the protocol and the way to talk to people in a business, in a corporation. I'd learned all that, different places, and they all happened to jive at the same time for my dream job. Nothing to do with God, just pure, what's the right word? Just pure serendipity. That's it. Carry on, Mr. Suchi. Or I'm just kidding.
So I throw on my new boots. Got to get my
new
feet used to them,
boots.
you know. Walk to the store next door, about a 2-minute hike, right across the street. Literally right across the street from the front of my apartment building. I buy my smokes. I get outside. I light that first one in 4 days. And 4 days or so, it might have been 5. And I start walking back to my apartment. And I'm getting close when I notice something isn't right. My left foot feels higher than my right foot. So I look at my right foot, the right boot that I just gotten, and the sole is crumbling away, just crumbling away. Most of the heel was gone, which is why it felt weird. The left one was crumbling as well, but the heel was still on it. So, you know, my right foot felt higher than my left, and that's how I noticed it. You know, I have pics of the boots when I got home with the one heel off of it. And the next day I wore them again and intentionally rubbed most of the soles off, you know, to see if I could somehow wear them without the soles. But these are the boots, as you can see. I mean, there's no heels. They completely just crumbled. They crumbled away. I got black stains on my carpet from walking in with the boots. Needless to say, I knew that I was going to be working a lot of hours. And I quickly saw, as I was taking this walk and rubbing away those soles, that there was going to be no way that these boots were going to work for my feet. So I called my dad, and he did give me the money to go buy a new pair of boots, which I have, and even though they are heavy, I think that they're well padded, and they're going to be good for the bottom of my feet, whereas most of my pain comes from. A lot better than like just the regular shoes I've been wearing, I think, for work when I've tried to work. And I know that those boots just sat in my uncle's closet for too long. I know that. But I also know I had prayed to God for the first time in 20 years to show me. And I also know that I had just given into that darkness again, that fuck it demon that my revelation had shown me. I will not deny that. A couple of days later, this past weekend, on Saturday, help for my apartments came. At least I found out about it on Saturday. The rent I owed was paid yesterday. My internet connection was restored, as you can see, because it's part of my lease. My electric bill as well. Even paid next month's rent. So I have a fresh start with my new real job. I have a chance at life again. When just a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about ending my life.
Okay, I think that it's probably a good time to say to anybody who's thinking of self-harm to please contact someone. There are emergency lines for people who need that kind of help. The fact that Nokasuchi was contemplating self-harm, like terminal self-harm, I guess, is something that I can't quite understand. I don't think that he's any more depressed than I have ever been. Now, admittedly, I am on medication. I have years of therapy under my belt. But I've never thought of self-harm. Never, ever have I ever thought of self-harm. Sure, I've thought of, this is rock bottom and I'm just going to run away. I'm going to go start a new life somewhere. I'm just going to get on a bus or get on a train and see where it takes me. I've had those thoughts, definitely, when I was younger. Or even, even when I was not that young. But I've never thought of taking my own life. I've been homicidal where I've wanted to take somebody else's life, but I've never been suicidal. So if you ever get to the point where you are thinking of self-harm, please talk to somebody.
I was in the darkest place a human can go just a couple weeks ago. That place that whispers to you
What place
that
is
everything would be better if you were just dead.
Ooh, that is so dark. Everything would be better if you were just gone. How? How's everything going to be better if you're gone? Better for who? It won't be better for you. You'll be dead. You know, being alive is better than being dead, right? So if you're gone and dead, how is it anything better? Knock? You're not making sense. You're confused. We need to talk. I hope you do join the channel for a talk at some point.
I was the raging atheist, but I became that atheist in that foxhole, and I reached out to divinity. And to me, divinity answered. I am forever changed now. I can no longer be the raging atheist. I know I've said it before, but right now I'm landing on deism, on a conscious universe, but that is right now. I still have that internal battle going on. I had quit smoking again after I bought that pack that day, but yesterday, when I got my internet back, and I was able to get that Patreon money, it's like $50. I went and bought cigs. Got a few of them left. 2.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know what quitting smoking looks like, this is what quitting smoking looks like. Watch.
Internal battle is still going on.
Okay, now, I just want to let you know that Nokasuchi has quit smoking. So what you see is just an illusion and is not real.
It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a battle. I had run out of my nicotine gum, so I got to get some more gum. Maybe as soon as I can, I try to add something else to the gum, you know, like...
Hold on. Nokasuchi. It's quitting smoking, you don't need God's help. But rent and your custody and a job and that sense of security, that you need God's help for. But quitting smoking is not something that God can help you with. This is not making sense to me, sir. Again, I reiterate, unconvincing.
Lozenges, maybe a patch. So I'm going to see my doctor to get more gum. I figure being back to work, which starts tomorrow, my first shift is tomorrow, my first real shift. Orientation was yesterday. Being back to work, that's going to help. I'm going to be working a lot of hours. Going to be lots of chance for even extra overtime on top of the overtime that I'm getting. So I'm working first shift. I've got 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Going to be working every single Saturday for overtime. And every other Sunday for even more overtime. And then every day I'm going to have a chance to pick up 2 to 4 hours on another line. I'm going to have a chance at real money. All I got to do is do it. And I can do it. I will do it. So I think that's going to help. It's not going to be easy. Divinity isn't just going to take that away from me like some Christians. A Christian recently told me, yeah, I found Jesus and didn't need to smoke anymore. Bullshit. It's not easy.
I don't know about this bullshit. Why is it bullshit? A Christian said to you that Jesus helped him stop smoking. That's bullshit. But God said to you that He'll find you a job and take care of your housing and your custody, and everything will be wonderful, and you won't be suffering anymore. You've got a job. That we have to believe. No.
I'm going to once again private everything on this channel. I've decided I'm going to leave up my second conversation with Matt Powell. For now, it's going to be the only thing on the channel. Eventually, maybe, I will go through and archive the best moments of this channel. Now, I was going to private it before this stream, but I decided to hold off. If anybody out there wants to archive the Raging Atheist, you're going to have about a week or so to do it. So at some point, I'm going to privatize everything but the Matt Powell second conversation. Eventually, maybe, I will go through and archive, I already just said that, but my days of streaming as the Raging Atheist are really done this time. My other channel, what had become a kind of gaming channel, will also be scrubbed. Everything's going to be privatized. I've already renamed it simply Knock, and when you see me in side chats, and you're going to see me, I'm going to be around still, you're going to see me as Knock, not as the Raging Atheist. I am stepping away from making content at all for now. I am a baby theist now. I am finding myself now. I might join the stream now and then.
I'm a baby theist now. That's cute. What does it mean? Please help me, anybody. I'm a baby theist now. Anybody else a baby theist? Artangelo? Are you a baby theist? Any other Christians out there who could say they're a baby theist, or explain to me or us what a baby theist is?
To appease that bug that I get, that itch, to talk it out and explore this further with myself and with others, to try to kind of question me. And I always think conversing with others, being challenged by others, is the best way to really work things out. But for now, I am stepping away from making my own content. I am focusing on this job, on treating my legs every night to keep them in the best condition I can keep them. I am recommitting myself to my child because this woke me the fuck up. She is the only thing that matters. And when I made that decision that giving her up was the best thing for her, it broke me. I appreciate the support over the years from every one of you. I am in no way trying to say that atheism is some bad thing or a product of demons. It took the divine finding me for me to see it differently, and I can not expect.
I call BS on that one. Woo, right away. It took the divine finding me. That means you're presupposing that this divine, whatever the fuck you mean by that. I wish you'd define this divine. Define the divine, Knock, because you're just throwing that word out there as if it means anything. The divine. The divine, if you look it up in the dictionary, means somebody like Matt Powell. He's a religious person, a scholar, whatever. That's the divine. So what you're saying is that the divine, Matt Powell, has touched you, and will. In fact, the next clip coming up is Matt Powell. But we'll get to that in a couple of seconds when he's done here. Let's just roll.
That of a single one of you. You have every reason to doubt. I fully expect to receive some hate, but that's the world we live in. Maybe one day, when life is settled for me, I will make content again. When I know what I am, and I have done the work to explore it. And if I do, I would not be making a new channel, but using that other channel, the one I am simply calling Knock for now. Maybe it becomes something else. Maybe sooner, maybe later. I'm actually excited to see where all of this takes me. I plan on being more active on my Facebook, so if you follow me there, it will be there that you can find me. Again, I want to thank all of you for bearing with me as long as you did. And if you are hurt by this, I truly apologize. It is not my intention. But this thing has happened to me, and I will not hide it. I never thought it would happen, though I never discounted it. But the Raging Atheist became a theist again. I thank all of you. It was a hell of a ride, a very unique life lesson, and I will see you soon in side chats for now. I love all of you. I truly do. I made sure to stream this live, so there was a side chat. I haven't looked at it, but I'm going to. I want to see what you guys have to say. You know, I could have done this unlisted and just put it out, but I wanted to see what you guys had to say. Leave a comment in the side in the thing below, because yes, I'll be leaving that Matt Powell conversation up, but I'll also be leaving this up. Maybe one day I'll make one more Raging Atheist announcement that, hey, I am streaming on that other channel. Find me here. Until that day, I'll see you soon. Or I'll see you in side chats, I guess would be the best way to say. Peace out.
Anybody living in any time, any generation can predict that there's going to be a great war in the future. I can sit here right now and predict that there's going to be a great war in the future.
You completely denounce the possible fact for you that God is real, or you are, which one?
I agree with a guy named Winston that comes on the channel sometimes, and he says that God is an impossibility. That is my belief. I think that God is an impossibility. I don't think that there's any higher purpose, higher meaning. I don't think that there's any forces outside of what's natural. I don't believe in the supernatural. I completely reject the supernatural. And I consider myself a secular humanist. I think all human beings we're essentially the same. We have the same motivations, the same wants. I think that we're all inherently good. We're all inherently bad. And I try not to be judgmental. That becomes hard on my channel because I do a lot of combating with what I consider to be really bad people. I have come over 20 years to the conclusion that I don't believe in the supernatural. I think naturalism can explain 99.9% of the things that we observe. The small, minute fraction of things that we don't yet understand, I think naturalism eventually will.
Right, so this brings us to this point in this video where I maintain that Christians have started to love bomb Nokasuchi, and why I say that will most likely be evident from the next clip. I think that Matt Powell is a dangerous man. He talks through his ass because he can't contribute anything at all into a conversation other than to say, come to Jesus, Jesus this, Jesus that. That's it. That's all he does. And people who are vulnerable, even Nokasuchi, when he's vulnerable, which he seems to be at this stage, he is gravitating towards the love bombing. Now, let's bear in mind that once love bombing starts, it's not an infinite thing. It eventually stops. And I believe that Nokasuchi will realize this, and he will start to have second thoughts about his second thoughts. But let's take it away.
So many of you would probably recognize the name Raging Atheist from different debates that I've had on this channel with him. And believe it or not, Raging Atheist now is no longer an atheist. He believes in God. And I think that this is phenomenal. And we had a great discussion about it. And he is having his eyes open to the truth. And I'm just so happy for him. And I just want to say it takes a lot of humility to admit when you're wrong. And anybody who knows Raging Atheist knows that his channel was filled with vitriol against God for a very long time, for 5+ years. And so to see him give all that up takes a lot of humility. And to see the atheist community, many of them turn on him, some remain friends. You know, it's an incredible thing to witness. It's an incredible thing to witness the Christians that are also rallying around him and supporting him. And I think that we all need to pray for Ronnie, that he will trust Christ as his Savior someday. And I have the wonderful chance to share the gospel with him after this interview. And so I hope that you guys enjoy the conversation that we had. God bless.
But I've been this like hardcore atheist on YouTube for 6 years. We had our time going at each other. I've had many battles on YouTube, and there's streams that I did where I was intentionally blasphemous, especially towards the Christian God, but towards the concept as well. After all of that, for divinity to be able to kind of reach out and touch me and say, you know what, you're important, you've got work to do. I think it's phenomenal, and I think it has kind of like jarred a lot of atheists, especially those that followed me. I had one recently comment to me that you know, like I'm just ghosting all the people that supported me for years, and I'm like, well, no, I literally made an announcement. That's like the opposite of ghosting. You know, like I let everybody know what happened, and I didn't lie about it, and I don't think that they really know how to take it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to reminisce and see kind of the past, especially the past that we have was kind of big on YouTube for a while.
Well, yeah,
the debate that we had.
Well, even before the debate, I always said, you know, like, because I was making videos, and when we first talked, I was only making videos. I wasn't doing lives. I wasn't debating anybody at that time. I was just making some kind of like edgelord atheist videos, trying to be just like, really trying to emulate and kind of be like Cult of Dusty, old school Cult of Dusty, way back in the day, before he got into the politics, you know, and then, you know, you came along, and it was the first time I ever talked live with not just a Christian, but, you know, somebody that does this on YouTube, and somebody that was getting really well known at the time. And then I started, you know, as a result of the movie with you, I started streaming. And so, yeah, like I've always kind of considered, even though I was making videos before I met you and we had our first conversation, but that was really the start of my channel.
Right. Yeah. I think,
one second,
I
my daughter.
remember us.
Just 1 second. My daughter she always waits until I'm live, or we're not live, but.
No worries, man.
Yeah, I am muted. Yeah, Ronnie says hi.
Very good. Caroline said hello.
Yeah, when yours are old enough, you'll realize that, you know, they'll have all day, you know, which I've only been home since 4, but she's had an hour and a half. She has to wait until I'm actually in my office and doing something to have a question.
Yeah, that's how they are. They're such a blessing. You know, I have 2 little ones, and they're just phenomenal. But they do that at like the worst moments, but it's still such a blessing to see them thrive and see them try to interact and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. It's the best part of life. You know, people that don't want to have children, you know, I was there. I never wanted to have one until I did, and man, it's a blessing. I don't think you can say it any other way. And not everybody's a good parent, so some people shouldn't have kids, and they end up doing it. But if you're a good parent, yeah, it's going to touch you and it's going to change you forever.
By the way, when you were still an atheist, we actually, I don't know if you remember this or not, we met up and had coffee like a year ago, I think.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool.
I put the picture on Facebook. I might have even I put it on my Twitter, and I might have even put it on the channel. And yet, like, every time that I say I'm going to talk to you, they're atheists are like, why are you going to talk to him again? You've done that, blah blah blah, dishonesty. It's like, well, like, isn't that the point? Like, even when I was an atheist, I've tried to talk to everybody, like, and I even ended up kicking John Peterson off the channel because he wouldn't let Danny come into rooms, and Danny's like harmless. It's like, no, I want to talk to everybody, and people need to get over this mentality. Like, what's the point of doing this or being a conversationalist on YouTube if you're not going to talk to people? I've never really understood it.
Definitely. So I wanted to actually bring up a post that you made. It was phenomenal. And I agree with this post on Facebook. You said, I announced yesterday that I was no longer an atheist, but I did that on YouTube and not here. I'm no longer an atheist. I've had an experience that as an atheist, I would have scorned and mocked, but it was truly my experience. Words will never be able to truly describe it. And when I think of all the negativity I put out there against divinity, to have the divine touch me, words will never describe it. I think that's phenomenal, man. I think that, it's neat to see that God is working in your life and that God is ever present with you. And I would pray, and I've been actually praying and hoping that you would trust Christ.
What? So Knox says the divine touched him, and this makes sense to Matt Powell somehow. This is like weird. We're in some Alice in Wonderland creepoid kind of a world here. How did you come to believe in God? What does that mean?
I'd say 4 weeks ago now at this point, 3 weeks ago now at this point, as the Raging Atheist, anybody came with the story that I was telling, that I am telling, I would have bashed them and said, just outlandish things about them, dissed them in every way that I could. So I fully understand that atheists are never going to accept what I have to say, but I can't dismiss it. I can't dismiss that something happened to me, and I was at one of my lowest points that I've ever been in my life. I was set to lose everything. Something happened to me, and then all of a sudden, everything turned around. Not just my mentality, not just the way that I think, but physical things in real life. I got saved on my apartment. I got a job when I hadn't had a job in over a year. Somebody died right outside of my apartment door in a manner that...
Knock, those are your efforts, dude. Whatever happened is because of your efforts. And sometimes things come together to lift you out of the doldrums. No divine, no supernatural, no outside interference. And you still have not explained what, in your opinion, this divine thing is. Touched by the divine. You're now accepting that the divine is a thing, is a real thing. Before, the divine or anything to do with supernatural was impossible. Correctly. Now, all of a sudden, I'm touched by the divine. You go from I'm an atheist, I don't believe in any supernatural or deity or blah 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 blah, to I was touched by the divine because I was at the lowest point in my life and I was contemplating offing myself. I was contemplating some self-harm. Dude. Unconvincing, Narc. I'm so sorry, but unconvincing. And don't fall. And if you fall for this snake, this cockroach that Matt Powell is, oh, I feel so sorry for you, because I know he's going to lay it on rather thick. Just Listen up, everybody.
Easily could have been me 2 months ago when I was deep into my alcoholism. So it's like all of these things added on to the experience that I had, the personal experience that I had is.
So hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. If you were deep into your alcoholism, how did you get that way without the divine? If God ordains everything or preordains everything for you and everybody else, then diving down into alcoholism would have been with God's help. God's there. He's there for you. He let you go into alcoholism. He let you hit the bottom and have nowhere else to go. And all your efforts came together to pull you out of your rut. And all of a sudden, at the same time, instead of giving yourself every credit that is due to you for joining society in a productive way, again, it's you who did it, Nokasuchi. You yourself deserve the credit. Don't sell yourself short, my man.
Led me to the conclusion that there is divinity. I'm sure that I could smell the booze on him, so he was drunk, but he like OD'd. He must have mixed something with whatever he was drinking. And it happened the morning after I prayed to God for the first time. I said, God, if you're up there, my first prayer was, God, if you're up there, show me you're real. Help me get this job. I want this job. And I thought about it, and I felt bad. And I didn't feel bad because I prayed. Like, the Raging Atheist, I should feel like stupid because I just prayed. No, I felt bad because the prayer was selfish. So I said, you know what, God, if you're there, show me you're real. Next day, 6 o'clock in the morning, this guy ODs right outside my door. Right after he tried to get in my door. It was just that with the personal experience that had happened that day, it's too much for me to dismiss. Like, the universe is telling me something. Deity, divinity is pointing the finger at you, saying it's not too late. I just have to listen, and I have to be open to it. And yeah, I don't understand it fully right now. So when I do go on the streams, I kind of explain it badly, and atheists are like, "You are insane," and I'm like, well, "You guys are kind of bigoted," because I was, and I understand.
Right, definitely. Well, I was going to mention I can actually see kind of a change almost in your countenance, in the sense of you're no longer really the raging type.
Yeah. I lost that. I lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still struggle with the word God, but I was an atheist for a really long time. It's going to be a process of me trying to figure this out. And I'm not dismissing anything. Right now, I consider myself a nominist, which is an acceptance of all religions, and that there's truth in all religions expressed towards the deity of the universe, right? So whether that's a creator deity, whether it's Yahweh, it's going to be an interesting path forward trying to figure these things out.
I would agree there's truth in pretty much every religion, in the sense that every religion understands that there's some sort of higher power, there's some sort of designer. But you have to keep in mind, too, the rat poison that's given to rats, it's 99% food, so you could have 99% truth. You want to make sure to have 100% truth, and that's found in Jesus. Again, I don't want to absolutely come off as if I'm forcing that on you. Obviously, that's something you'll have to consider down the road. And I think maybe even off air we would talk about Christianity. And, I have nothing to hide to my viewers and to you, Ronnie.
Okay, I think this is kind of the halfway point of this clip, and this is where Matt Powell's going to start rubbing it in. He's going to lather Nokasuchi's mind, slather Jesus all over it, slather the mythology, slather the theology, slather the nonsense, the bullshit, the stories handed down through oral tradition, which obviously we know don't end up the way they started. Matt Powell is he reminds me of Kent Hovind. Him and Kent Hovind are made from the same cloth, are cut from the same cloth. Matt Powell, any fundamentalist, evangelist, anything to do with street preaching, any of that stuff is highly dishonest, highly dishonest. And unfortunately, Nok is going to be love bombed by this guy, Matt Powell, as you shall see. And to me, it's becoming less and less convincing as Matt talks to Nok. Listen up.
Yeah, I would absolutely try to convince you to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. I would try to convince you to just simply trust Christ.
See what I mean?
There's two concepts ultimately of religion, and I think you'd agree with this. The concept is in Hinduism, Mormonism, Judaism, and so forth, they all teach that if you're good enough, if you keep enough commandments, if you pray 7 times a day, you're going to go to heaven.
No.
Whereas pure faith would tell us, and Jesus has told us, that if you believe on him and if you trust him as your savior, that it's a gift and that it's not something that you earn. And so all other religions really are based on arrogancy in the sense that they think that they're so good that they can inherit eternal life, whereas Christianity would tell us, and Jesus would tell us, that, look, I died for you, I paid for your sins, buried and rose again. And by putting your faith in that, you're humbling yourself and realizing that you can't get to heaven on your own, that you need somebody, that you need God to literally take you there, to take your soul to heaven as a free gift. It really requires humility.
See, he's laying it on thick, telling Nokasuchi what he needs to do, what he requires, and he's sitting there listening to it. Can you believe it? A guy like Nokasuchi, you don't tell him what to do. He's an independent thinker. Listen to him, absorbing all this, lapping it up. It's disheartening.
And so that's the difference. There's people who try to work their way to heaven, and there's people who
heaven. He's saying that Nokasuchi has got to work his way to heaven. That's the whole purpose now of Nokasuchi's life, of anybody's life, is to work their way to heaven. We haven't proven that heaven exists. We know that heaven doesn't exist. Heaven is an impossibility. It's part of the Jesus or the Abrahamic mythicists, or the Abrahamic myth. Heaven is not a thing. Heaven is a concept. A bad one.
trust Jesus, that Jesus deserves the glory.
See, he's going Jesus, 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 when Jesus is a myth. Very slimy, very con artist-like.
And that Jesus would take them to heaven. So just so you kind of get the two religions. So every other religion outside of Christianity will teach you, well, you just do the works and you can stay saved. Well, that's not what the Bible says. It's certainly not what Jesus said.
You know, I'm not closing myself off to it, and I've started to actually read the Gospels, not in the manner that I was doing as Raging Atheist, the Bible is stupid series, but actually reading it, being open to it.
All right. We all know that the Bible was written by mankind, back, a couple of thousand years ago, more. He knows it. Nokasuchi knows it. And now he says he's reading the Bible in a different way. I think you're confused, Nok. I'm still unconvinced that what happened to you is anything to do with your non-defined divine, touched by the divine revelation, all that to me, and to everybody, no doubt, who's watching this, who's an atheist, is just water off a duck's back, right over the head, nonsense. Nok, don't go down the Matt Powell road, please.
And I've already kind of changed my stance. Like I was a mythicist, and now I'm like, you know, I'm getting away from that. I'm not gonna go against history anymore.
Now Jesus is history. Before, Jesus was a myth. Jesus was nonsense. There was no history. All there was the Bible. Now, Jesus is history. Where does that come from? Where does that come from, Nokasuchi? You show us how Jesus is history now. And don't say you found it in the Bible, because that seems to be what you are saying. You're saying you're reading the Bible and Jesus is history and you found it in the Bible. Don't fall into that. Don't fall into Matt Powell's trap. We will take you back. The atheist community will welcome you back with open arms when you hit, or when you regain your common sense and your reason and your critical thinking skills.
Just because I don't like a thing, I'm going to open myself up to it. So I'm no longer a mythicist. That's a start, and we're going to see where this thing takes me, because obviously it has some intention for me. So I believe it's going to show me the truth of everything eventually.
You have to be pretty humble to admit when you're wrong about something that you've based your entire channel around.
Yeah.
Being a YouTuber, right? I mean, you have to take into consideration you've spent your whole YouTube career basically as the Raging Atheist.
It's life changing. It's been totally life changing, and I'm still trying to get used to it. But I'm looking forward. Like because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do YouTube anymore, if I was gonna have a channel. Today I was like, you know what, I'm going to. I'm not going to shy away from talking about this just because I don't understand it yet. And I'm going to, I'm going to be there for people that have supported me and support me still, regardless. Some atheists aren't going to kick me out of their in group, and hopefully I can be a bridge to them. But a lot of atheists are, and they're doing the same things that they bitch and moan about when it comes to the theist, right?
I don't believe you. I haven't heard of one atheist who's kicked you out of their group. Not one. But you've said now that atheists are kicking you out of their groups. Can you come up with group names? You don't even have to give us any individual names, but group names. If you want to give us individual names, why not? If you say they're kicking you out because you're confused, and I think that's where you are right now. Not you're just confused again. Well, we'll set you straight. We'll get you right.
And it's really hard to see that when you're in the moment. It was hard for me for the longest time. One of the things that Smokey said to me that always stuck with me was that I'm bigoted against Christians. I'm bigoted against religious people. And I was like, no, I'm not. I fight against bigotry. It's what I do. But, no, I was, because I just couldn't see it in myself. I couldn't see that I was literally doing the things that I said I despised in other people, but when you're in the moment, you don't see it. You don't see yourself like that. You kind of really have to have an experience like I had, or just step outside of yourself for a moment, take a chill pill, and look at yourself. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do it. Science definitely doesn't know everything. I always kind of.
What does that mean? Science definitely doesn't know anything. Science isn't a being. You've gone from being an open-minded science believer or science guy to a closed-minded Jesus guy. Tell me this is not happening. Tell me this is a nightmare and I'm dreaming it all. Please tell me.
Scoffed when Christians especially, but like anybody would say, scientism, you know, the religion of science. I would always scoff at that until I actually started meeting people that believe like science is the end all and know all. No, like to me, we barely know anything yet. And there's no way that any atheist is going to be able to sit there and tell you that they know for a fact that a God did not create the universe. No, we don't know much of anything about the universe. We're still babies. We're still finding things out. So I'm not leaving out anything. What I am doing is admitting I don't know anything. I'm just a human being on this.
Well, if you don't know anything, then how do you know that the divine touched you? How can you make a reasonable reasonable deduction that the divine touched you when you're at your very bottom? Alcoholism, threat of losing custody of your child, threat of losing your apartment, threat of being homeless. And then what does Nok do? He puts it all together. He takes some steps to improve his life. His life is improved. Everything to do with the actions that you yourself have taken, Nokasuchi. You yourself. And I still say that it is your lack of self-worth that has pushed you towards praising a non-existent, supernatural, divine, whatever that means, over taking the credit for yourself. And that's what you should be doing. Take the credit for yourself. You did the work, you take the credit.
On this rock in a vast universe. But I do think that what touched me is going to lead me to the truth eventually. I just got to be patient and I got to wait for it. And I got to change myself. I've got to be a good human being. I think that's the prerequisite. You've got to be a good human being. And if you're not, recognize it in yourself and change right now, because whether you want to see it as a physical demon, there's things inside of you eating you away, and you don't have to let them.
There you go. You sound kind of like a Christian. Well,
yeah, I'm getting there, I think.
Did you hear that? Matt Powell says to Nokasuchi that you're sounding more like a Christian, and Nokasuchi says, I'm getting there, I think. Do you know what that implies? We'll talk about it at some point. We'll talk about it soon, hopefully. But you know what it implies when Nokasuchi says, I'm getting there to Christianity? Something doesn't sit right with this. And I'm still unconvinced.
I'm getting there, I think.
And who knows, maybe someday you'll get saved and go on to be like a pastor. Maybe God would want you to be an
everything's
evangelist.
possible.
Oh no!
Really good.
You think it's it's possible that Nokasuchi will become a pastor. Look me in the eye, Nok, and tell me that it's possible that you'll become a pastor. Without laughing. It's a joke, right? It's possible.
Happened to the Apostle Paul. You know, you've got this guy that was very much
Okay. This is the love bombing that's coming to Nok from Matt Powell. This is it. This is where he lays it on thick. He high Marses his way in with the bombing and the love bombing, and poor old Nok is when somebody does that, how can you not feel good, you know? But it's a con, and Nokasuchi's being conned on that power right now.
A Christian. The Apostle Paul was so zealous of what he believed, and when he found out that he was wrong, And when God himself touched the life of Paul,
Bad
Jesus
comedy, I
said
agree.
to Paul, he says, why persecutest thou me? You know, Paul said, where do you want me to go, Lord? What do you want me to do? And that was kind of where Paul believed on the Lord Jesus Christ as his Messiah at the time. And, you know, that he ended up becoming an incredible witness and an incredible mouthpiece of wrote over half the New Testament.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my dad because, I think that is a possibility. I think it's a possibility I become a Christian minister. It's a possibility I become a Buddhist monk. I mean,
it's a possibility that Nokasuchi becomes a Christian minister, and it's a possibility that Nokasuchi becomes a Buddhist monk. Now, I think you're just playing into the hands of Matt Powell. That's it. He's pulling your strings. He's the puppet master. You're the puppet. Don't let it run away with you. If you really are the puppet on a string, and Matt Powell is the puppet master pulling those strings, you're in trouble.
I was really close to declaring myself a Buddhist a few months ago, but I don't know, like the feeling that I got after my personal experience was, man, I'm really glad I didn't declare myself a Buddhist. So I don't think that that's really a possibility, but I'm open to everything. But I had this conversation with my dad. I'm like, Dad, you know, it would be really easy and probably profitable for me right now to declare Christianity. You know, the atheists would say I'm another Brett Keane, just grifting.
Yes. There's a possibility that I could become 20 years old again. Possible. It's possible. You know, with Jesus, anything can happen. Yes, Rosie. To me, you are already a supermodel, darling.
Whatever, but like I could use my story as the Raging Atheist and make a hell of a profit as a Christian preacher. But if that's my path, I want it to be a genuine one. I don't want it to be a grifting one, just something that I know I can profit off of. If I come to any deity, it's going to be because I've come to that belief and that faith. Despite how tense it did get between us sometimes, you always showed me an element of respect, even when I wasn't showing you any. And I think that's a compliment to you. And, you know, when people do end up seeing this, either on your channel or my new channel, they're going to hate me for saying that. But, you know, give credit to where credit is due. There was times where I was really crappy to you, and you've always been very, very, very pleasant to me. And kudos to you. And I think that you taught me a lot, and I'd be a fool not to learn those lessons.
You taught me a
do it better next time. Man. Thank you. Yeah. You taught me. Yeah, you taught me great things, and you know, looking back, even though I was an atheist, I was the Raging Atheist. You did always show me a certain level of respect, and yeah, man, I truly, truly appreciate that. You know, honestly, and I've always said this, even as the Raging Atheist, I'd be kind of offended if you weren't. You know, like if you weren't, like, I know atheists get offended about people saying I'm going to pray for you, all of that. I never really did, because as a Christian, that's the best thing you can do, right? Like, if you weren't doing that, then that truly means that you have no compassion for me, or no empathy for me as a human being. So, you know, I think that's something that atheists need to realize. Do that internal critique and realize when a Christian is telling you, atheist, that they're praying for you, that's literally one of the best things they can tell you.
What? What a lot of crap. Okay, so now, excuse me, this is the point where, because this is Matt Powell's little clip that I'm replaying, he's throwing up all these scriptural quotes and stuff like that. So we don't need that around. We pretty much we still need to talk about Nokasuchi. but we need to talk about it. We need to actually get together and talk about it. I'm in a room right now. I have a Discord server. I'm in it. This is where I'll be conducting all the chatty chat from now on. I'm not going to give you the link because I've given it out a zillion times, and it's Discord. Now, not everybody likes Discord. Not everybody uses Discord, but for chatting, talking, and having a live stream, I think it's the best in terms of being able to control the room and have it not sort of just implode into meaningless talkos. So that is essentially all I have for you today. No, that's not true. There's more. There's more. I just wanted to run one thing by you one more time, just to rub it in, just so you get the message.
Anybody living in any time, any generation can predict that there's going to be a great war in the future. I can sit here right now and predict that there's going to be a great war in the future.
You completely denounce the possible fact for you that God is real, or you are
I agree with a guy named Winston that comes on the channel sometimes, and he says that God is an impossibility. That is my belief. I think that God is an impossibility. I don't think that there's any higher purpose, higher meaning. I don't think that there's any forces outside of what's natural. I don't believe in the supernatural. I completely reject the supernatural. And I consider myself a secular humanist. I think all human beings we're essentially the same. We have the same motivations, the same wants. I think that we're all inherently good. We're all inherently bad. And I try not to be judgmental. That becomes hard on my channel because I do a lot of combating with what I consider to be really bad people. I have come over 20 years to the conclusion that I don't believe in the supernatural. I think naturalism can explain 99.9% of the things that we observe. The small, minute fraction of things that we don't yet understand, I think naturalism eventually will.
So there you go. How do you go from I agree with Sidney Winston that God is impossible to I might become a Christian minister? Answer me, please, somebody. Answer me that. He clearly said that he agrees with Sidney Winston that God is impossible, and he also clearly said that he might become a Christian minister. So there you have it. There's question marks hanging in the air. I'd like to take this up further, which I will. But until we do take it up further, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for staying all the way through and watching the whole thing as if you're dead. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.